Welcome to the channel, and let's get into another video that's going to be produced in a few parts. For me, the point of this channel is to attempt to take a deep dive into the main topic. To be clear, I'm not an expert, but I'll try to publish as much detail that I think is of value, accurate, and entertaining. Today's topic is a watch with the factory name of Millenary 4101. I'm going to read the reference model number once in this video for all the videos going forward, and that number is 15350ST.OO.D002CR.01 from the manufacturer AUDEMARS Piguet. Now let's get into why this model and the story on one specific watch. We started in Las Vegas, Nevada back in 2011 at the Venetian Hotel and Casino. Nothing good can happen in Vegas, and being introduced to this brand and watch was following that theme. There was a watch shop in the hotel, and is now gone, but the memory of that day is still with me. As I entered, there appeared to be only one person running the store, who turned out to be a young woman. Every story from a man's point of view is better with a woman involved, especially in Vegas. Now, for anyone who has been in a high-end watch store, the majority of salespeople are sometimes off-putting to people who are just browsing. In this case, the woman had a casual and approachable attitude in just the way she asked if I wanted to look at the watch that I had been looking at from outside the store. Being someone who did not want to waste her time, as I was not a buyer, I said no thank you, but she insisted and took the watch out anyways. As we talked over the watch, she informed me that it was part of a special collection in limited number, and the one resting on my arm was listed at $250,000. At that moment, a chill went down my back, which I will never forget. How that watch, the amount she casually mentioned, and how that moment made me feel. Once that experience passed, I noticed another watch that looked to be more of a skeleton design, but very different, being in an oval-shaped case. We switched to that watch, and that is when I discovered the Millenary 4101, and at that time, a tenth of the price of the previous watch. After that visit, I spent years learning the history of AUDEMARS Piguet, the watches that they make, and my love for this model only grew. Now, my style is not to follow the crowd, going the general direction, sure, but the crowd, not as much. What I mean is that with high-end watches, sure, but in the vast universe, there are many brands, and so when it comes to AUDEMARS Piguet, one must consider the Royal Oak as the go-to watch. The Royal Oak is amazing, but to get all the key features I love in a watch comes at a significant price. Then you look at how many versions of the Royal Oak exist, along with large followings, and it becomes not as unique as one would expect for the money. In my mind, if I was going to get into this brand, it had to be with a watch that made my heart sing. Many watch videos exist, and the majority share the same overall message, that you should love the watch and collect it for that, and not just a monetary expectation. Now, overall, I love watches, and so over the years, my list of wants has changed and grown to include Rolex, Patek Philippe, and now AUDEMARS Piguet. My wants may have grown, but funding did not. So to be clear, a new watch at $25,000 was not in the cards in my mind. I am also someone with a limited funding stream, so a move to a watch like this had to be well planned. With some time having passed, the internet and various resources we now come to love, being able to find a watch at the exact right time, at the exact right price, from a source that I can trust, takes us to Sotheby's. Now, similar to AUDEMARS Piguet, the name Sotheby's ranks as one of those names that only people in certain financial circles mention. And so to add them to this story only grows the experience. I'd gotten to the point financially that I could consider buying this watch. And so when I Googled AP Millenary in January 2020, a watch in New York came up. As I explored the auction, I saw it was still active and at a price point that was in my budget. but would or could it be the one? For me to buy a watch like this for this much money, it had to have all the bells and whistles, so that it was almost like going back to 2011 and getting one new. As you can see in the photos, this watch was the right model, and with a quick look, looked to be in good condition. But then we get to the icing on the cake. This photo shows that it comes with all the boxes, the papers, and even the hanger tag. Now, in all my research of secondhand versions of this watch, to get all of these options would be similar to getting an unworn version and would fetch a price tag in the high teens. So far, it looked great, but let's get into the concerns. If we look at this photo, we see that the original, or what I hope is the original watch band, is worn with color missing. A worn band on a watch like this needs to be considered, as one just can't run out and replace it. Another key factor on the band is that the clasp, is it there, and what condition is it in, since we can't see it in any of the photos. Looks like another red flag. Next, we move to more important factors, such as the case and glass condition. Here, we can see in this photo what looks like scratches in the case, and then we can also see what looks like pitting in some of the nooks and crannies. Getting to the glass, when we zoom in closer, we see what looks like a stain or some kind of damage that was hard to see without zooming in. Could all of this have caused many to look at the watch and at this point only get 8 bids by the time I saw it? Seeing the watch, the images of damage, the images of all the included items, and then the current price, was I still looking at a possible purchase? I had a few days to consider if this was a wise move. Was this the right watch? Could I get it at the right price that I could live with? And was I really going to make a bid on a Sotheby's auction? eBay, sure, been down that road, but Sotheby's, that's a whole different animal. What were the fees? How did the bidding work? Basically, what could cause this to be a great idea or a bad one? The day came to bid. The price had not changed. I figured out the fees, taxes, and how the bidding worked. And with my budget, I figured I had one bid action before the budget was blown. I put the one bid in towards the end and watched as the time ticked away, with no other bids coming in, only to close the amount I could afford. I won. Or did I? I was now a Sotheby's customer. Odd to say. So on to paying. To maximize this purchase, I applied for a United Business Card to get the 100,000 miles for spending $10,000 in the first 3 months. Knocked that out in one shot. While waiting on the card, I was waiting on the invoice from Sotheby's, and I watched the news about reports in China having an issue with the virus called something Corona in February of 2020. Sotheby's worked with me to pay when the card came in, and they were also still working up the invoice, along with the news that Corona was now mixed with another name, COVID, and a number 19, and it was in Europe. The card arrived. I paid the invoice online, just as COVID-19 had arrived in the United States. On the day of payment, I found out that New York had shut down, and so Sotheby's would have to lock up the watch. So I had won what I had been wanting all these years, but now it came down to when would I see it? What did I get into? What about the damage? And what was I going to do with all those United miles? Find out in the next video the ongoing Millenary saga, and thanks for watching.